game is probably worth us chatting about here, even though we experienced this on stream. When I talked about Elden Ring Neightreign last week, which was just a handful of hours as a solo game, I described it as like a pretty poor experience. And I still don't think, even with the balance patch that has gone out, which I haven't experienced personally, but I just don't think it's a game that has a solo mode, but as a game you should play perhaps with strangers and probably most importantly with friends. But we played a couple of hours of this as part of our second as. Well, it depends. Like, Rob, did you find that experience fun or entertaining? Perhaps both.
Oh, that's so good. I found it fun. I found it fun in part because it was like.
Do you want to set up what happened if people didn't watch the stream? Like,
wait, also, did you say the name of the game? Did I just miss it because I was reading something else?
Okay,
I
did
sorry.
say the name of the game. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we were playing Neightreign on stream, and our first run together went just abysmally. But that's not our fault. Patrick dropped early, like the game crashed.
That was unfortunate.
And Kato and I like put together a tiny little run, but we got it was just the two of us, which meant basically Kato was soloing. And we died, and then
let me solo Rob.
Patrick logged back in,
and I was playing a support class too. I was playing the mage, which not a good thing to like try to lead on if I'm the only. If it's one melee, one solo, it can be kind of a one support. It can be kind of like the melee is gonna get overrun a little faster than I can like clear waves. It was tough. It was tough with just two.
So. Because we're all in chat, we're all in vMix together. We're all chatting. I think we're just in a party together, not remembering that because Patrick dropped, once Kato and I exited that match, we were no longer grouped, and so we're getting ready for the next game. I run over to start expedition and auto matchmake, and before I can turn off the matchmaking, I'm match made, and now
hold on. We should rewind just a little bit because not only did you accidentally matchmake with a bunch of strangers, but when we teamed up together, you accidentally tabbed over to a completely different class than like the one you intended to, and like ended up playing the Sekiro katana build complete. Like, I didn't. There was this like the noise you made of like, oh, we're already going. It was like, why? Why would you make that noise? Like, I didn't mean to be that character. Now it turned out to be fortuitous. This character spoke to Rob, but I think it's like worth pointing out we had like two instances of like whoopsie-daisy. But that
character's basically a dervish, like no shield, but you know what? A shield's just more decisions I have to make.
Right.
So this character liberated me from that, and basically I was like a lawnmower that you just had to move up to, like alongside the thing you wanted to kill, and just like spin the blade. So I was grouped with randos. And I wanted to alt F4. I was like, I don't want to play with randos on stream, and I'm obviously like they're gonna laugh at me, and it's gonna be like kickball all over again, where it's like nobody wants this dude on their team.
Some deep-seated trauma's coming out here.
And so, I skipped therapy this week, but as we've already seen, we're just uncorking all the issues today on pod. So it turns out though. One of these players is good, and one of them's just absolute crackerjack, like Souls player. This character M, and real early on. Oh, and also I think M was playing my character class, so I'm looking at me. It's like a ghost car version of like Neightreign, where I'm like looking at me if I had it like that. And we were learning all sorts of things. Like at one point, we start fighting a giant monster that turns out to be what my character's ult is. Like I come into a church and there's a giant like werewolf thing just wreaking havoc. And I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck? Like we just landed and there's a giant werewolf we gotta fight? No, the giant werewolf is me. Could be.
It was the inside you all along.
The class.
Yeah.
If you're playing.
The wolf's inside me, yeah.
And so like I'm learning just watching these players how they're going about like taking down like sort of like managing aggro in these engagements. I'm learning a bit about like just sort of the pace of play and when to stay and when to go. But mostly I'm just running along behind M because it's clear M knows what's going on and just like follow their lead. And we go on a run. We get to like we get to night 3 and the final boss, and then we're fighting like a Cerberus type thing, and then like they could not carry me any further. I became a liability in that fight. Now part of it is also I never engaged with the Sekiro mechanics of that character. What we went with was a Darth Maul twin blade thing. And I'm curious about this. So the thing I find really interesting about Neightreign, that I'm actually kind of keen to play more of this.
Mm-hmm.
So the other Souls games, Elden Ring, you kind of have your build, and you're mastering that build, like the kit that you have, the things that your character can do. You have to do them better and better and better, and like really refine that style of play. But that also means that, you know, I'm never going to be a soul sicko like that, where it's like, well, now I'm going to do this whole game again as a mage, as opposed to like a sort of a tanky shield guy. But the structure of this game is that it's super low commitment to just be like, now I'm going to be tanky shield guy. Now I'm going to be like dancing dervish guy. Now I'm going to be, archer guy. And I could actually see this being good for my relationship with the Souls games in general, because it's like, okay, now there's no like commitment to this play style, and you just like learn, all the enemies from the game are there. Yeah. But now you can engage them with like all the different various like build types that exist in the game, which is kind of cool. I ran into, and I'm curious your take on this, Kato, because I've been thinking about this. You get to the final boss of this run, it doesn't go well. That's going to be something they're thinking about. Like, what should I have done differently?
Right.
Because the issue wasn't, the fight went on for ages. I wasn't actually that bad at like dodging the attacks from that boss. It was more closing and doing damage. I felt like my character with that twin staff had to run up and basically like literally be in like the collision zone with that enemy, and then I would just have to like spam attacks. But that meant that it was like really hard to control distance and get out of range of like some of the bigger AoEs. And also, because this enemy was fast, I was chasing the fight throughout. Like, it was really hard to get ahead of where this thing's going to be and put down damage. And so I was sort of sitting there being like, it kind of felt in my final fight like I just had none of the tools I needed to contribute usefully in that. Like, they were doing a good job of like managing aggro, and that's another part of this. I think maybe the reason this feels so much easier and more welcoming, but maybe also less interesting, is that because there's 3 of you, the name of the game now is aggro, like juggling.
Right.
And I like that, in that it makes it really forgiving, because I can just back out and wait for the aggro to draw off me, and then I can sort of like figure my shit out, heal up, re-engage. But also it means that, like, unlike in a typical Souls game, those games there's nowhere to hide, right? Like, once you got the enemy's attention, you have their full attention. And so you're gonna just back out. You can run out of the fight zone where they're sort of like leashed, but you're gonna have to figure out what to do when they come at you. Here, you sort of have moments to sort of drop back and figure out what's going on and not be in the line of fire. But I could not figure out what I should have been doing to contribute in a fight like that, because it was like basically all I knew was run up to someone and like mash attack and like do damage, and that worked pretty well, while their backs are turned and coming in. But a character like that, suddenly I either needed reach or do something completely different with that character.
Yeah. It seems difficult in that last one. I think you were doing the best that you probably could as a melee character, given the situation. And I feel like y'all almost got it, right? I think it was it's one of those things where you hit your classic Souls shit right here, of just like certain animations and understanding what the like actual dodge window is, because like you get iframes on the dodges, right? Like, there's, even if you're in dead center in the AoE, you don't have to clear the AoE as long as you dodge at the right time. But that's gonna take like some getting used to. And then like I feel like Yeah, like you were saying, I feel like the thing that like really has drawn me to this game is the fact that you can just kind of switch on the fly and be like, all right, what is this about? What is this side of Souls about? Which is really, I think it's weird that this is coming out so far after the original game, Elden Ring, because it feels like this is the intro, like the wider intro, like maybe like over the weekend, ex Waypoint publisher Joel Fowler and I were talking about this game where he absolutely thought that it was DLC for Neightreign, for Elden Ring. Like just assumed like, oh, I haven't really leveled up my.
It feels like an
character.
standalone, to be honest.
It's 100%. It's its own game, right? Yeah. Like it feels like a mod.
Yeah.
Right, because it has all the enemies and like the weapons that are in there have the like weapon patterns that you expect of them. Like, right, if you pick up a halberd in the game, it's gonna behave the way it did in the original. But things like the extra sprint, where you move as fast as your horse did in the original game, things like obviously the overall structure being very quick and being like very like, okay,
there's no leveling decisions. That's just
you just hit X, you've leveled up. You have the build is based on the character, right? It being so like quick to move through, and then just like having these sort of extra abilities, which are really neat. I think this is one of the things that I think people have been leaving out in like its kind of comparisons to the original game. It's like these are completely new. Like, which is kind of part of the reason the button prompts are maybe a little bit awkward. It's just like they had to have all of the things you would normally do in the Souls in Elden Ring, but then we wanted to add two new abilities that are just like always available to you: the ultimate and the the special abilities that you have,
which are different than like what Souls has done in recent games, where with the weapon arts, right?
Which are still in the game.
Which are still in the game.
They still have weapon arts as well.
Which was that was Elden Ring compromise. Like, how do we give abilities, but instead they tied abilities to weapons. Called them weapon arts. And I remember I disliked that, because there were often times like, I like the weapon art, but I don't want the weapon. And it didn't feel, there were often times where the weapon art didn't necessarily feel intrinsically tied to the weapon. It was like, it just arbitrarily is tied to the weapon. And this is an extension of that, where they haven't gotten rid of weapon arts. They've just, like, you can still do like a frost stomp, and things like that, depending on the weapon that you have. But now you have cooldown abilities that are more like, hero characters in, a team-based game.
Right. But yeah, it's funny because I feel like now, if you ever wanted to like show someone who has never touched a Souls game, you could be like, let's play this. It's super light commitment, and then you can kind of understand what some of the combat flow does feel like in the main game. And then it's like, if you think that's interesting,
without feeling like shit,
and then you want to plop that into a long RPG style, like you're leveling a single character, go play Elden Ring. But if you found it not, it's like, yeah.
But the one thing that is so profoundly different, though, is like, when I was playing Demon Souls, for instance, the thing it really started to, almost like fighting game levels of like focus and attention required, like really thinking about, okay, this particular weapon has these animations and it's going to have this reach. And you really start thinking about, my background is in fencing, so I think of it in those terms. But like, you think about like, okay, here's the safe distance of the fight. Like, here's where you can lunge from and score a hit. You get inside this, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Outside of you can't. There's a lot of that focus, and you get really, you pay attention down to less like millimeter in these fights. And I think Neightreign has trouble getting there, because just by having the three people and having it so about like aggro juggling, it does have a lot of old school MMO encounter dynamics as well, where it's like, okay, I need to fall back. Now our ranged is drawing them off. Our mage is, recharging. now I can re-engage. Now I'm going to have to be
Right.
tanking and evading from it while they start doing damage, and that's cool. And it takes a lot of the pressure off you, but so much of the way those games teach themselves to you is also, hey, you need to be focused. Like the details matter here because you're not going to be able to evade. Like you need to know exactly where the safe engagement zone is with this particular enemy type and with the weapons you've got. And I think Neightreign doesn't lend itself to that necessarily.
Well, but that's if you're soloing the game, which you can play.
Yeah.
A lot of Elden Ring with 3 people. You have to like reconnect and at certain
Yeah,
points
that's
after
what
the
so
boss.
that's
That's really annoying. But
it's
at
not
every
true
boss,
multiplayer.
you can know. But there's that mod, right? That people, which is
you're-
very
you're-
popular,
you're-
and I think the popularity of that mod is part of why maybe this game got fucking made. Where it's just like the seamless co-op where people can connect once and just like exactly. But people do like having the lever to like pull off. It's like, yes, if you're like a true fucking sicko and you want to do all that, you can get like really into soloing the bosses and being like that. But then you could also play it like a traditional RPG where the party has different roles, right? Like you all end up making different builds together and playing through the game that way. But this is such a lighter lift of like getting into that vibe. That I feel like it's actually gonna end up being a good on ramp to seeing like, okay, well, do you want to play through like a story mode of this game that's more intense? Like now that we've done Neightreign for a while, let's go find out what, because this is it's a prequel, which is very funny.
Which it has less bleak vibes,
right?
Because it's like now you go back to the round table hold, and it's like, oh, Sam the Eagle, what's up, my dude?
Yeah, I love the bit about the hold not having as many swords in it, right? Like you're the people putting the swords in the fucking table, which is kind of like great like thematics for like the sort of repeatability of just like, oh, we're stuck in this loop. It's gonna take eons and eons for whatever this cycle is to break eventually before Elden Ring happens and like that cycle starts. Which I thought I enjoyed the lore of, but it's also funny because I think I'm curious to try to like take a friend who's never played a Souls game and be like, what do you feel about this? Right? Like this is the player that I want to like pick the brain of like, how does this land for someone who's never engaged with the Souls games at all, and does it end up working as an on ramp for the greater
It's still
series?
a punishing game. It's just
right.
Like the punishing is different, right? So
Right.
it's like, when you play Neightreign and like I was fucking around in our first run, like went over a cliff. And I was like, it's all right, I'll just fight these enemies down here and wait for both y'all to catch up. And I died, but I just spawned back, 10 feet away, and then
Right.
like could continue where I left off. I hadn't leveled up yet. Once the consequence here is like you lose, you permanently lose a level if you die. When you're in the exploration phase, and when you get into the boss phase, that's when there's a different sort of, death and level revival mechanic. But it's just
honestly the time loss and the level loss together can put you so behind. It feels like dying at the wrong time in a MOBA, where it's like, and now you've lost the tempo
the match
of getting
is over.
hit. The match is kind of over because you didn't hit level 5 by the time you hit the boss, right? Like if you get caught off too many times, it's just like you can't even catch up if your souls end up behind the fucking storm wall, which holy shit, the storm is so fucking fast. Like there's no, in some of these other games that have this storm like circle mechanic, there is a sort of storm meta that is available to you, or you can kind of heal through some of it. Like, but I feel like this one ticks so fast that it's like, nah, get the fuck out. You're not.
But you're fast, right? Like,
yeah, you can get out, but it's like if you're trying to do something behind the wall, it's like no, get the fuck out. You're done. This area is not for you anymore.
Yeah, the storm. I don't know. I need to play more. To me, it did kind of feel like the storm is there because this genre that it sort of is has a storm, but also I don't entirely feel like it is. It's not an extraction game in that way. You know what I mean? It's not a battle royale in that way. And so the storm kind of felt like it is the storm more felt like it is funneling the narrative, the overall like the session. It is just saying, okay, now it's time to go like do the next chapter, much more than it is there to be an actual gameplay obstacle or element you're interacting with, and treating as the map is not a resource in that way. I think is maybe like, yes, you're running up and you're fighting things for XP, but the storm is there to sort of like function as a timer to move you along, not necessarily filling the role it fills in a battle royale or an extraction game.
I do think it's slightly different, but one of the things that we weren't quite like grokking that I've kind of like looked into since then is that different icons on the map do have more specific like expected payouts for defeating all the enemies in a certain area. So it does end up doing this sort of thing of like, you have to make a choice, like, okay, what kind of upgrade do we want to go after? Like this place is going to have some weapon upgrades, that place is going to have like the Church of America like statues having like extra flasks, because like you only maybe have time to clear 2 of these locations before the circle puts them out of bounds, right? So it's not exactly the same thing, but I do think it as you like learn more of like what these different camps kind of like hold for you, it does force you to make kind of like build decisions on the fly, essentially. It's like, what is this? Okay, where did we fall? What is immediately available to us, and where do we think the circle is going to constrict to? What is going to be locked off after the first circle, right? Like, and they give you that kind of like, which I've now realized, the kind of like windy like wind shit on the on the map is actually a rough estimation of where the next circle is. It's not 1-to-1, but as it closes in, you end up realizing like, oh, this is kind of the general, like everything outside of this wind is fair game for being blocked off in the next circle. So we should hit the things that are behind that are like not going to be available to us later, right? So this is sort of the meta structure that we didn't really get into in our playthrough, because we were just like still figuring out just even the characters, right? Like that being so different, but like that's kind of the map knowledge, I think, is going to end up being like really some of the more interesting choices you end up making during a match.
Yeah, I definitely want to play more. Because you know, obviously, like Patrick playing it solo didn't fully click with it. Here I am, like Goaty, for sure.
Goaty.
It's up there with it's up there with Deliver at All Costs. Games I've played this year, this is very high among them. But no,
nice.
But it was fun. Like it was fun. It was charming. It was kind of loose. It was fun to return to that world without like honestly, some of the stuff, like a few reasons I fell off Elden Ring is like, one, I just sort of I'm not good at it. I run out of time, but also because the game's hard for me, it requires a lot of focus. Right. And I sort of hit that point where it's like, it's not a good moment for an Elden Ring sesh. And
the
so
Fraser conundrum.
Interesting.
Well, no, I think that has more to do with length than anything, right?
Oh,
like, what are you going to do in like 20 minutes in Elden Ring, right? Like you're barely going to move forward.
I actually Elden Ring is the rare the FromSoft game where you can.
If you hit the next race,
stuff to do
then
in 20
sure.
minutes.
But
I mean,
like,
but the thing is,
sometimes you don't.
I also am not going to be. I'm not. Like, I have a warm-up time in that game. Like, I have to stay engaged with those games to remain like good at playing them. Like, nothing carries over between like very little like mechanical sense or instinct for it carries over. And then like it takes me a while to get into the flow of a session and sort of like figure out exactly like what the timing, all those details that matter. And so for me, it turns into a thing where it's like, I'll play this when I have a little more time to like, you know, seriously focus on it, and there won't be dogs barking at the fucked up creatures on the screen. Actually, the dogs play a huge role in D-Rit. Like, yeah, no, Elden Ring is done, and we got Tilly. Because Tilly cannot fucking handle weird anthropomorphic but profoundly wrong things on a screen. So you can imagine how like the fucking hand crabs went over when she saw those. But so I don't have the like it's hard to sort of like book time to get in on that. And here it was like, oh, this is you know what? I loved this world. I loved this game, but also it's now snackable. And again, like, it doesn't feel necessarily like losing a close fight in a Souls game or an Elden Ring makes me want to Dr. Manhattan and go to Mars and just sit there and think in my bleak solitude. Here, I lose, and I'm like, yeah, that was probably going to happen. Anyway, let's go again.
Well, yeah, but also there's the revive. Like, you know, when you do multiplayer in Elden Ring or any other Souls game, you know, I forget we were talking about this, but the you know, there's the very funny dynamic of like, I'm going to go in and help somebody. And when you play multiplayer in a Souls game, it increases the health bar of the enemies as a result. And so you have to do, I don't know if it's 2x or 3x, but like I have to do a lot more damage in order to get through the fight. So it's always funny to pair up with somebody like, let's go, buddy. I already did this boss. Let's walk in and whoop his ass. And then you just dodge incorrectly and like whomp, and like you die. You've left them with a twice as hard boss, and clearly they're going to wipe. Here, there's a similar sort of like scaling happening with the enemies, but like we had this really fun dynamic with I forget what was the boss, like the kind of Jason Voorhees boss that we were playing.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the name of that one was? I forget. It's kind of like stumbling forward. Yeah. He's got the big sword. Kinda like,
the big sword one?
Yeah, I forget.
The flying sword one?
Yes, the flying sword one.
Bearer something?
That might be right.
Yeah.
Either way, imagine a sort of Jason Voorhees, sort of like, you know, horror creature who's like coming at you slowly and can do a couple of quick attacks and some sort of like screen-filling sword, but mostly
the
is
bell-bearing hunter.
Bell-bearing hunter. And so it was really interesting because there'd be moments where, like, you know, Okada was playing range and, like, Rob and I are kind of getting in there. And we would be, like, too greedy, go after too many attacks, like, and one of us might get knocked down. And it's like, all right, the one person, like, pull aggro so that Kato can sort of, like, pew, 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 like, hitting
By the way,
tiny
nothing
little
has greater mod energy than the fact that the res mechanic is just beat up on your friend until they stand up.
Yes,
yes.
Like, that is
really funny,
nope.
yeah.
Sorry, we don't have a mechanic or a dedicated control for this. We're just having friendly fire be the res.
It's great though, and it makes whether or not you get into Elden Ring Neightreign or not, and I strongly suspect I will never touch this game outside of us playing it together. It's just not that type of game for me. But I had such a great time in those couple hours that we did play, and these little moments where it's like, oh, that completely changes the dynamic of like playing a fight like this where, okay, like now you're kiting an enemy so that Kato can get in position to try and revive somebody. And then also like, it's not just revive. It's like the more you die, like the longer those revives, you can always revive someone. As long as like one person is alive, the fight is never actually over. And that just makes... These are enemies I've already fought before, right? Like they're not unique bosses in Neightreign. These are bosses that I fought before in other games, and yet the context is so different that all I really hope for is like I hope Neightreign is a fun experiment that leads to whether it's Elden Ring 2 or whatever. It's like I want some of this, like an evolved version of these ideas in that game because that sounds cool as shit. And so the Battle Royale, like experimental game that FromSoft has made, I think I'm gonna have a blast playing on stream a couple of times and then never think about it again. But I think we're gonna look whatever the next big RPG is from FromSoft. I'm not gonna be shocked if we see these experiments and the stuff that Miyazaki himself is doing in Duskbloods, the Switch multiplayer centric action RPG that he's working on. Like all those are like really cool ideas, and I'm glad they're getting a chance to kind of experiment with them. Like, because I think folks that if this game is not for you, the things that are happening here will be for you when they come out in some evolved or modified form in their other games, and that's just really exciting because that's been one of those pillars that's missing from Elden Ring. Like the popularity of the seamless co-op mod is an admission of a fault. Like that is a weakness in Elden Ring. I understand how FromSoft got there, It's them just continuing along the path they've done before. They've done different modifications. Like, all right, it's easy to do multiplayer if like the bonfire is right outside the boss door. You're not going to do a boss run, so you can just group together. But like, it sucks. It's a bad system. It's a bad system. This gets closer to good systems and makes me really excited about like what multiplayer can mean in a FromSoft game going forward.
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, like the whole like jolly cooperation shit from Dark Souls.
It's not that jolly.
1.
Here
It was,
though.
but
It's
like
very
it
jolly
had
here.
it sounds kind of fucked up, but like they're bad or like purposefully sort of like disjointed multiplayer. Like making joining multiplayer be part of an effort felt right for Dark Souls, at least. So it's just like thematically it was like hard to
friction
do
felt
collaboration
right.
in
Yes.
this world.
Yes.
But at this point it's like we're not even playing with those themes, those specific themes as much anymore. By
And
the
you
time we get
remove
to
so
Elden
much of the
Ring.
other friction, right?
Right.
Like the friction points moved where this now feels archaic as
Yes.
opposed to thematically purposeful.
Yes, exactly. And part of it might just be like bits and pieces of that engine have like been passed on from game to game to game, that like it's just like, you know, they need more resources into like really like zhuzhing up, like, you know, they went big world and now they have to figure out, okay, well, how do we let 3 people just like exist in the whole 3 worldwood? The modder's got you halfway there. I hopefully the next game and with Neightreign in the pocket, in their back pocket, it'll be good.
Well, and the thing I'm most excited about really is like this is my chance to force Kato to be my game tutor, my Nintendo hotline, under the guise of like content creation.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
Because
Rob,
I've become a
the way
better-
we played this, where it's like, we have to admit that.
Are we gonna
had
talk about the part where I just ate all consumables? 'Cause we don't need to talk about that.
No,
moment.
no. That was very funny. But I mean, the way we got to play this game, and by we I mean Rob and I, was like map doesn't exist to us. Like we get in, we do our job, which is
Yeah.
the fight, and then
Smack
Kato
things,
says
pick
we're
stuff
hitting
up.
this up, we're hitting that up, we're hitting this up, and then we follow. We had our own M. It's a C.
Yeah, I think M had more map knowledge than me, but I was just kind of like, that seems close enough. We won't get too far away. We'll at least get some levels. I'm not sure what kind of drops we're getting, but let's go there. You know.
Well, let us play to our strengths, though, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
mean, you know, you had the closest thing to a sniper class that you can get in
Second
Elden
closest,
Ring.
I think, because I think
Yeah.
Kratos was playing the Iron Archer.
Archer, yes.
The Archer is very much in that zone, but I love me some magic.
We should try that next time, though. We should
Yeah,
try
yeah,
you
yeah.
in the Archer class. I think you'd be best equipped to take advantage of that of any of us. But yeah, I thought it was worth bringing up because I was pretty down, and it was like, oh, okay, well, it happens. Like, not for me, but I think in a very specific context, this game very much was for me, and so I stand by. Don't play solo. Like, even if it's easier, I just don't think it's made. It's just.
I was literally
can
about to ask, like, do you think if you return now that they've done the patch for solo mode, would it be any interesting at all, or is it really?
I think
just
the
about
random. No, I can
jolly
understand. Maybe it's
cooperation?
interesting if you are an Elden Ring sicko and you have run through that game and you just want a new experience in that world, and the
Sure.
randomization gives you that. But like, I haven't finished Shadow of the Erd Tree, right? Like, so like, I just don't.
Same.
Right, and that like I
Fuck.
played an hour of that when we got together, you know, for an in-person thing, and I was like, this seems great. And then just
Toss it
haven't
in
gotten.
Despelote dungeon.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the thing that really frustrates me is I've never been able to get in-house streaming from my PC to my Steam Deck to work properly across my network, no matter what I've done. If the PC was in the same room as me, I think it would be fine. But like the PC being in a different part of the house, like despite more powerful like network equipment, it just never works consistently enough. And not to bring it all back to GeForce Now, but like for whatever reason, From Software does not like to put their games on NVIDIA's service, and so Moonlight works pretty well. Maybe that's what I should do. Moonlight, I have gotten to work well and be the in-house streaming equivalent. And so, because I would want to be able to play Elden Ring on my Steam Deck, and I know natively it runs okay, but once you've been spoiled with solid 60 frames a second and all the effects turned on. Like, I just can't go back. Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, I want to play more. It's also I'm started back in the moment of like, damn, I should go back and play these games more, and because like it's fun to like I've spent a good portion of like yesterday evening and this morning thinking about like, but what about when you're in full Sekiro mode with the Executor and you got the unsheath move kit, which is totally different than the way the other characters control, and it's like, what's that all about? Like, how do you like? There's resource building and like, so how's that all going to work? And I kind of want to get into that, but I think it'll be easier to get into it if, for instance, I have Kato being like the coach, right? Coach Kato, RBI leader.
I forgot I told that story on this pod already.
Yeah.
But like Kato's an excellent swing coach. Like very much. Kato notices things on the. Kato's attention is a powerful resource, a slightly uncontrollable one.
Yeah.
But
it's like wild magic.
Kato's watching you play. She can tell you a great deal about like what you are doing that you're conscious of, or like what is happening that you haven't like clocked, and it's like always enormously helpful. And it's like, for me and how I learn games, it really skips ahead of a lot of the painful like beating my head against things until they sink in. And it's just the like, Kato's very good with the here's what is happening, here's the underlying logic of it, and I'm like, now I sort of see. And so like, I think if we get a few sessions of Neightreign going, I'll be in my Souls Master era.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we should. I want to go back. We need to go back. We have to go back.
We'll go back.
Gotta go back to the Elden Ring
literal
islands.
Yeah. Hey, those who know.
Yeah.
Those who know what you just said.
Deep cut.